All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is day 3 of the draft, and our draft extravaganza will be here until 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Mike Dussault, Eric Scalavino, Paul Perillo, myself, Matt Morrell, talking the draft, in particular, of course, the New England Patriots, who have had a number of picks since our show ended yesterday. So which of you fine gentlemen want to run down where the Patriots are right now? Mike Dussault has his thumb in the air. I'm not sure if that means anything, but
I'm good.
Okay, go ahead.
I got
It's better than in another place.
Mike, why don't you bring us up to
Where
date?
it usually is.
Bring us up to date. So 3 fourth-round picks were selected today. Jack Jones, cornerback, running back Pierre Strong, and a quarterback Bailey Zappi.
So we made a strange pick on day 1 and a strong pick on day 3.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep up with the Joneses around here. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, Eric, I knew that was coming.
You set me up before the show.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Well, I guess it's all coming together. And I was thinking this morning, I'm like, for a team that claims they don't draft for need, they sure do draft a lot of players in positions that they need. So
Well,
I
it
think
just so happens this year that they need a lot of different positions.
That's
so.
true, but
I think in general, good teams draft for need.
Yeah.
Like you try to get good players that fill the needs that you have.
Yeah.
You don't reach, but like someone taking Kenny Pickett at 3, that's not smart drafting.
Yeah. But I mean, just looking at, and we can get into the nitty gritty of each of these guys, but 2 cornerbacks, thought that was a big need. You needed a guard for sure. You got one.
That's for sure.
Would love to get a fast wide receiver. You got one of those. A running back to kind of groom as James White gets a little older. Damian Harris is going to be
With some
a free
explosiveness,
agent.
with some real, significant speed.
Yeah.
That's my buzzword of the day is speed.
The need for speed.
The need for speed.
Still, questions. Front 7, linebacker haven't been touched. So I think that that's a point of, I don't want to say contention, but something to consider going forward. And I think it says a lot. I mean, after the draft, you always look and you say, all right, this is primarily the group you're going into camp with. Here are parts you like. There's good depth. There's going to be good competition here. Here are parts where we really need somebody to step up, and I think that's the case with the second level, the edge, the linebackers.
Yeah, and you never know because they'll never tell us. But when you talk about front 7, are they satisfied with what they have, or did the board just not fall where they could get guys that they liked?
Yeah, and you know me, I tend to look at things on the positive side.
Yeah.
I think it's an indication, and this is what we talked about on the show yesterday, and I wrote about it last night. I think it's an indication that they are expecting some contributions from a group of guys that really hasn't played a whole lot in the last 2 to 3 years, depending on the individual. Josh Uche, Anthony Jennings, Ronnie Perkins, Cameron McGrone.
Right.
And I would even throw Raekwon McMillan in there, even though he's not a draft pick. He was here last year, tore his ACL in camp. I think they're expecting something out of him. So out of that group, if you can get 2 guys to give you significant contributions, is that better than drafting somebody that you don't, it's just as big of an unknown with less experience in the system?
Yeah, and I know
I think that's what Bill's looking at it.
Yeah, and I know
And
Matt
even last night, Macro mentioned some of these guys as extra
McGrone.
draft picks.
Yeah, McGrone specifically.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's amazing how they do it. Oh, we have extra draft.
No, but I mean, there are certainly questions. And I mean, I'm looking at, the depth chart right now where you have 5 guys coming off significant injuries that missed all of last year for the most part, in McGrone, McMillan, Longy, Hall, Jennings. And I just look at the edge and the outside linebacker spot. And Paul mentioned Perkins, Uche, Judon, and Jennings. That's kind of it. That seems really light to me. Really light and obviously unproven. So I think there'll probably be some depth picks maybe at that spot. Not that I'm expecting those guys, anybody selected at this point, to come in and really be a guy. Maybe every now and then it happens that you capture some magic. But I'd watch that spot, and I think just like going into last year, I felt like, man, they are really thin at corner, and it came back to bite them. Right now, still some draft to go, still undrafted, but for the most part, I think this could be the thing we're talking about this year of, man, we don't quite have the edge setter. We don't quite have that guy off the edge to complement Judon. Everybody's focusing on Judon and Barmore, and the other guys can't make plays. That's my concern right now as we still sit with 3 picks to go.
Yeah, I was just going to add that
4 picks.
We got through the 4th round already today, and we're into the 5th. And right now the Patriots don't have a 5th-round pick. Normally Bill doesn't like to go around without making one. You've got 3 picks in the 6th. You've got 1 7th-rounder. Paul and I were talking earlier about hopefully they make a little move to get
Package
up
a
into the
couple of
fifth
those,
round and
move up into the fifth round.
because right now you're about 40 picks away.
Yeah. Well, stay
from,
ready.
From
I mean,
the next
it
New
could
England
happen
pick,
at any
so.
second.
Yeah,
At any
so
second.
just a couple of noteworthy things around the league. The top of the fifth round, Washington took Sam Howell, quarterback from North Carolina, that some people were surprised was still available. He's more of to me just a good football player than a quarterback. He's a power runner, not really a gifted passer, but he's a winner. I think he's a good player.
Sounds like Tebow.
Fifth round to me, that makes some sense. And a couple of punters have come off the board, as well as a kicker. Is it who's the kicker from LSU? Is it Cole Tracy, or is that an old kicker? I forget.
Yeah.
I have to go back and look now. But 2 punters off the board, not God's gift to punting.
Right.
From San Jose State,
Right.
wherever.
They had Mel Kiper
All
on.
right. Where's he from? UCLA?
San Diego.
San
State, I
Diego,
thought.
San Jose. Where's he from? California,
Horizon.
somewhere.
San Diego.
Somewhere.
Is it a Reza or a Rise? But anyway, he's still on the
Punt
board.
God.
Kuiper said he had him at his third punter, so
A lot of people
he's not
said that.
surprised.
Yeah, and the kid from Penn State went first, and then the kid from Georgia, Camerata or something like that, also. And it's York. Cade York is the kicker from LSU.
LSU?
Cole Tracy, I think, is a ex-kicker from LSU.
Oh, yeah.
But Cade York went a couple of picks after the Patriots took Jack Jones. He went to Cleveland, and then a couple of punters went as well. So yeah, it's just I find it interesting that everybody was all over this generational punter, and two other punters got taken in the fourth round over him.
It's so easy in this draft process for the groupthink to kick in, and somebody brings somebody up, and it becomes a name.
Yeah. Yep.
And,
And it becomes
he's not
true.
necessarily, where you would say, oh, the best guy, but because that's what people talk about, and then the fans expect it. So had the fans drafted him, Ariza, earlier, like, oh, that's great. If they drafted the other guy, who maybe everyone in the NFL who legitimately does this had the other punter ahead of him, well, they could have had the other guy. You just get kind of stuck into that of reading and assuming they know what they're talking about.
Right. Well, sometimes it happens. Like Joe Cardona year. Everybody said that they needed a long snapper. He's from the Navy. Like
It felt
everybody
too
knew
right,
it felt too right, and it happened.
Yeah.
But I go back to what I've been saying for a while now is I don't think there's any need to draft a punter. Jake Bailey is a Pro Bowl caliber, all-pro caliber player. $4 million is not going to break the bank. Deuce.
Well, no, I'm not.
He's
I'm
not
not saying,
breaking
but
the
I'm
bank.
just. I mean, I think that's a consideration.
Yes,
though,
he's. What is he? Like
he's
the
the
second,
highest paid punter in the league because he made
just
the Pro
first or
Bowl.
second.
I just
but-
don't think that should ever be a consideration.
Especially
Like your consideration should be we want good players. Like is Jake like I'm not saying Jake Bailey is this Ariza guy. Like I don't think he's God's gift to punting. But is he a good punter?
Yes.
Do you think he's a good punter?
He was.
I think he had he had an off year last year.
Fred not happy with.
And I think they
Well, he
turned
had an
over
off year
Ryan.
last year.
And I think they turned over Ryan Allen before you
Unbelievable.
really thought. I mean, I thought Ryan Allen was going to be here forever.
I'll ask that question again after the draft if the Patriots didn't take a punter. I think
I-
I'm going to get a different answer.
I think Jake Bailey is
That was good, though. I
even
like
better
that.
than Ryan Allen was.
Yeah.
And Jake Bailey kicks off for you. Jake Bailey's your
Jake
backup
Bailey
field
is
goal kicker.
significantly better than Ryan Allen
Yes.
was.
And he had an injury last year that I think people
Well,
forget.
Do you know about? I mean,
He had a knee injury early in the year.
right, and
And
we're assuming that was
Yeah.
the reason he had an off.
And I
year.
agree with you. I think that Eric is right that he had an injury. I don't necessarily connect the two.
Right, I don't
I don't
know.
think that is solely the reason that he had an off
Well,
year.
I
However,
connect it.
I don't think he was a disaster or anything
No.
like that. We need to replace this guy.
But I connect the dots because as a rookie, he wasn't hurt. He had a great year. As a second-year player, he wasn't hurt. He was an all-pro. His third year, he was hurt, and he had a little bit of an off year.
I know.
I'm connecting those dots.
You're out. You're
Yeah,
out,
but
Tom.
we've also
They don't
seen,
need a punter.
Yeah,
Bottom line.
You study punters, Eric, and you've seen where punters just lose it.
But not in their third year. Not like that. Like,
For no particular
But let
reason.
me ask
they
you.
do.
But here's-
I think you're right. Pat O'Neill was the
Pat
was the
O'Neill.
guy I know you're thinking of, and I
Yeah.
agree with you.
But he was
Did you
shaky
see any
from the start.
Did you see any signs of Jake Bailey looking like he lost it last year?
No.
Like he lost it?
No,
that's the.
I don't
wasn't-
I don't think he
wasn't
was
the
as good
same
as he
field
was-
flipping kind of.
Right, as an all-pro.
Weapon.
He was an all-pro the previous year. I don't think he was at that level. I don't think he was bad last
The
year.
other reason I'm connecting the dot is because Jake Bailey clearly has a strong kickoff leg. And there were several times last year when they decided they wanted Nick Folk to kick off in certain situations.
Yep.
That can only be explained by the fact that Jake Bailey's knee was bothering him.
Not if you listen to Bill.
Yeah, but Bill doesn't always say what he really means.
how many-
I don't know, but that explanation that Bill had for the kickoff that folks screwed up in Buffalo
Yeah.
was pretty detailed for a
Yeah.
ruse. I think he was telling you that they had a strategy and it wasn't executed properly.
And how many times?
It wasn't because we had to not do it
And
this
Bailey
way.
had 2 or 3 kickoffs that went out of bounds.
I believe he had 2.
2.
And he had a few blocked, but the blocks are not. I don't think his
Necessarily.
fault.
Not necessarily on him.
Well, those
Yeah.
are few. Yeah.
That's coverage in front of you,
Right.
or blockers in front of you,
Yeah.
making some mistakes.
Here's kind of a little crazy tidbit. Last year, Mac
Crazy.
Jones was the 5th quarterback taken.
Yeah.
Bailey Zappi was the 5th quarterback taken this year. Like
Wow.
the difference between
Well, I tried to make that
15th.
comment, and it,
Yeah.
it dumbfounded Fred yesterday.
Six.
Let's go down the line with the particular players and talk about each one. I think we talked about the receiver yesterday, right? We had
Tyquan
him.
Thornton,
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
they took
Mhm.
the run on Marcus Jones. He was the first one, which digging a little bit more into
Wait,
him.
whoa.
Do you want to do Marcus
we're
from
going
yesterday?
Marcus from
I didn't know
ye-
if we wanted to do
we
Marcus
did him
from
yesterday.
We did him.
Did
Are
we?
you good on him?
Yeah.
Were we on the air at that point?
We were.
When we took Marcus
Yeah.
Jones?
Yeah.
We talked about Marcus Jones.
I don't
yesterday.
remember.
I don't
Were we?
remember if we did or not.
Okay, go
It's
ahead.
been a
Or
long.
did it
It's
go
been a
in-
long
I mean,
draft.
well,
We went over 10.
We have new listeners.
new listeners.
Let's,
Go ahead.
let's reset it.
Reset.
We'll re-rack it, and
Reset.
we'll play it in the replay when we're driving home.
Yeah.
So Marcus Jones, people because of his size, maybe a slot corner, but I think he's a dynamic return guy. I mean, I read a couple things of that alone. He's really good. I saw speculation last night. He's talented, makes plays on the ball. It's just a question of he's a slot. He's small. He's short.
5'11",
he's not a
5
long
yeah.
outside corner. But then
I think
today,
he's like 5'8".
Oh, he's
isn't he?
5'8". Is he that small?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
small.
Oh,
We,
okay.
we actually just saw him.
Yeah.
He's small.
Yeah.
He's a
Okay.
small guy.
Smaller than me.
But then today they took Jack Jones, who has had some off-the-field issues, got kicked out of USC. I think he was academically ineligible. He got busted for breaking into a restaurant.
Not good, Bob.
But
He was hungry.
Thrown out of USC.
yeah, but he's that guy. He's the man coverage, outside, long, athletic kind of guy. I think they met with him maybe 3 times, so clearly doing their due diligence on him. So those 2 picks just between the 3rd and 4th round to kind of start us off. It's a big need. They needed cornerbacks.
Yeah.
They brought in Terrence Mitchell and Malcolm Butler, veteran guys, to kind of stop gap. And you hope that these guys can
Oh,
emerge. And
Bill's got a Khalil
Shakir, yeah,
wide receiver from
liked
Boise.
him. We liked him, and that's a good pick for them. They also got what's his name's brother, Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook
Yeah,
from
right,
Georgia.
the
who I
running
think's
back.
another
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
fit for them too.
I
like,
think
because
it's
that
a good
offense
fit
is
for them,
like-
but I think that was a little hot. Like I think that was a little bit of a reach for them. But I do like the player. I think he's good.
he fits
That
what they
offense
he
keeps
fits
getting
what
I
better.
think, and this is around. I thought maybe 4th round. So this is around where Shakir was projected. Top of the 5th round. I think for an offense like that, he has a chance to make an impact right away. They sort of
Yeah, Cole Beasley's out.
their
and-
complementary receivers have been turned over. Cole Beasley's gone. Emmanuel Sanders is gone. Gabe Davis has moved up a notch with Diggs. I think Shakir will have a chance to contribute right away.
and
I
then
think
the-
he's talented.
Patriots also took a running back.
I like that pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mike and I talked on the podcast on running backs about the need to maybe get that James White guy. James White's not going to be around much longer. He has explosive speed. 4.3, 4.38, 40,
It was a 4-3-7.
4.37.
He was the fastest running back at the combine.
A lot of production as a receiver. Now, the caveat is South Dakota State.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's part of it.
Yeah, but you can't teach speed, Paul.
No, I agree.
No.
I agree. That's why I like this
I'm
pick.
only kidding.
I led with that.
Yeah.
This is a pick I like. It wasn't it wasn't one of those, they have to get a pass catching running back in this draft at some point. But if you get an opportunity for one, I think it's there. Some people don't. This is another one that was picked a round or so higher than most people thought, and some people are not happy about it. I kind of like the athleticism.
this
You
stage-
took a 5th rounder in the 4th
Exactly, I
round.
know.
What are you doing?
At this stage, it's like
it's
like millionaires arguing over an extra
is
1 or
what it
2
is.
million.
But yeah, 2-time captain and not overwhelming production, but consistent. 20 catches as a junior, 22 catches as a senior. So I think he's an interesting player. And again, I to speak to Paul's point of the speed and just general athleticism. of this class. That's kind of coming into view, I think.
Yeah, and I like. I don't know if anybody listened to Matt Groh last night. It was late.
If you want speed,
Midnight.
Right,
Got
but I
fast
mean,
ball.
it's like we have been talking about how we think the Patriots need to get faster, and it's nice to hear from the people who are making the decisions that they sort of agree with that. And Matt Groh was emphasizing that last night. Look, if you want to get faster, you need to draft fast players. Taekwon Underwood, Tyquan Thornton.
Well, that's who that
Very
guy
fast.
compares to, by the way.
Just not the hair.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The first Jones, cornerback, very fast. This kid, Pierre Strong, fast. I mean, so they do need to get faster, and clearly they were targeting fast players. So if they're taking them a little bit higher than they should be, maybe that's because they want to make sure that they get these guys that they know are faster than others.
Yeah, I wonder what this pick potentially means for J.J. Taylor. I know some people spotted him working out with the group and seemed like he had bulked up a little bit. And
He was always
it was
bulky.
a little bit of a head scratcher last year that they didn't really give him a chance. They went right back to Bolden.
I'm going to tell you right now, I would be stunned if he's on the team next year. I think it's clear by his
between
inactivity.
Montgomery and Strong.
By his inactivity last year, coupled with
what is it you do here?
start with bringing back White in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a move. That's Patriots 101.
Mm-hmm.
We have this young guy who's coming on and demanding playing time. We're going to let the veteran go as a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
They re-upped him for the second year in a row,
Yeah.
coming off a major injury. So I think that, again, look at what they do.
Right.
I think all signs are telling you that they don't like J.J. Taylor very much.
They also drafted a quarterback.
They did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Bailey Zappi.
yeah, he was
Tell him what he's won, Johnny.
He was my top guy on potential Patriots today. The only quarterback I put, but he's kind of Mackey. He's a guy that not physically crazy, but smart, knows where to go with the ball, gets it out quick. I think he, kind of has that same kind of style of play. But I just think it's good business generally to draft quarterbacks. Stidham, he's his last year. Hoyer, he is under a 2-year deal, but if you can, and everything I've read about this guy is that
I'm with Mike.
he could
I
be a
think
good
it's good
backup,
business.
but.
Good business.
Maybe Stidham signs somewhere else next year, gets a chance, and then you've got this guy with a year in the system to kind of understand and be a long-term backup. But I think another thing too is just that Mac's not the biggest guy. I think you need to be a little bit prepared that he could get dinged here. I think you need to have.
Well, how big is this kid? Not very, right?
Yeah, this
No,
guy's
no,
even,
but
this
I
guy's
mean,
even smaller.
No,
than
he's
Mac.
smaller than Mac. I think he's a little bit over 6 feet. But I just think the depth is a thing, and having a quality backup that we saw what happened a couple years ago. Brian Hoyer in the Chiefs. Nobody's seen Stidham. I mean, I assume he's persona non grata for as long as he's here, and so
Yeah.
it's just good business. I don't think you can ever. Every year I take
I
one.
suppose.
Just so you know,
but-
just listen to this for a second. I mean, I understand Western Kentucky's not exactly Alabama, okay? So take it with a grain of salt, but the stats are just mind-blowing.
Oh, he unbelievable.
69.2 completion percentage, 5,967 yards, 62 touchdowns, 11 picks.
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
Last year.
No, it was a record, NCAA record.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it's 1 year. That's all. Like he didn't play very much. He was at the Senior Bowl. Again, I think Mike talked about his physical attributes, and they are just sort of average.
6 feet, 215.
I think he's a project as a backup, but I kind of I watched him. He's not a dynamic athlete, but he's not unathletic. He's okay. I think he has a so-so arm, but that production is just immense. You bring him in, you see if he's got an aptitude for the position.
Yeah.
If he does, you work with him and try to develop him. If he doesn't, you have your 3 quarterbacks already.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can have him replace your 3rd quarterback,
sure.
why not?
Why not?
Maybe you can, you get him in your system, and over the next 3 months, you decide heading into camp, he can be number 3. You pedal Stidham, and maybe someone gives you a 5th rounder for him, 6th rounder. I mean, I think that's probably wishful thinking, but maybe. You never know.
I was thinking a new tackling sled because the one out there is a little rusty. Stidham for a
I
tackling
thought you
sled.
were going to
Jeez.
say, I was thinking of 2.
No, but some of our listeners probably are.
You only got a 2 for him? I think he's a 1. I think
So that's where they.
Bro.
That's where they are right now. They've got 3 picks in the 6th and 1 in the 7th.
Yeah.
None in the 5th.
we're in
the
that
fifth,
hole right now.
so-
Well, we're getting close.
We're
What
in
is
the
it?
fifth.
151. Well, we still got like 30 to go.
Yeah.
But
got a
I
little
would
ways to
look.
go.
I would look slot receiver still. I mean, my guy from UCLA is still out there, Kyle Phillips.
Kyle Phillips, yep.
But I think you need depth at outside linebacker, edge. Those are the areas I think they have to address. It's really, I mean, they did really nothing in free agency other than Mac Wilson, Bentley, bringing Davis back. But I think those are the spots to watch in these last 4.
I'm just looking at the board as we go down. The Vikings have 2 picks. The Bears have 2 picks. The Giants already picked twice, and they have another pick in this round. So Dallas has 2 picks later in the round. So just teams that have
have multiple picks that maybe Patriots could move in.
Maybe.
Yeah. All right. 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. 855-PATS-500. Email is webradio@patriots.com. Let's get everybody involved here at this point. Sean in Vancouver is first up on the Ace Ticket hotline. What's up, Sean? Sean.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's still 4 players that are available that I like, and one of them is the cornerback that you like, Fred, is Tariq Woolen. He's still there. I know they already have 2 corners they took, but he's still there. There's a tackle, Rasheed Walker, edge player, Kingsley Enagbari, and nose tackle, John Ridgway. So those are, I don't know if they'll last the 6th. I don't know if the Patriots will move up into the 5th. Maybe they'll trade Harry with a 6th round and get to go up. In terms of who they've taken, I think Cole Strange is starting guard, Tyquan Thornton, downfield threat wide receiver, Marcus Jones, slot corner. He also has special teams, so that's good. I'm not crazy about Jack Jones. I'd be surprised if he makes the team. Pierre Strong Jr., I think he's a backup to White, 3rd down guy. And Bailey Zappe, I think he's a good backup. He might push Jarrett Stidham and be the backup. So that's where we are.
Yeah.
Well, that would probably be number 3. I think Hoyer's your backup.
Well, yeah, they'll keep 3. But, I mean, he'd be there instead of Stidham.
I see what Sean said. He could be, like, technically ahead of Stidham in terms of getting reps, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, if
Who, Zappe or Hoyer?
Zappe.
Yeah, I know.
I
But
mean,
I think
ahead of Hoyer.
No, the backup is Hoyer.
Well,
yeah.
You don't give a guy guaranteed money for 2 years, and then you're going to cut him. I don't see that happening.
who,
They
Hoyer?
guaranteed
I'm not
Hoyer's
saying they
contract.
cut Hoyer. No, I think
Then
Hoyer.
he's your backup.
Hoyer stays on the team. He's your coach / backup.
Right. Backup.
Reg Dunlop.
Rich.
Well, they're all
Lions Scouts
backups,
coach?
but I think they're going to want to see what.
No,
this
I
kid
think
can
he's
do.
the number 2 quarterback.
I'm happy to
If
have
something
Zappe.
happens to Mac Jones, Brian Hoyer will play.
early.
Yeah.
Early.
At this point,
Okay.
I mean,
Again, they must be poorly run if they're giving the guy that they don't want to play guaranteed money.
yeah.
It's not that much money.
Well, he's the type of player, Zappe, who could be like in the development of their system for a quarterback. The way they see Mac Jones is like this guy is kind of similar, and
He's
will
not
have
going to make it in the
long-term
NFL,
backup.
Zappe. He'll
No.
never
I
be
mean,
a
he
starter
was-
in the NFL.
Fred, I don't even know what's happened to you.
What?
Zappe will
I really don't.
Yeah. What?
The Patriots picked him.
Yeah.
I know. So.
You're supposed to
So
be
that
all
means he's a
rah-rah.
stud.
Oh.
Come on, get with it.
By the way, the Patriots have picked a lot of quarterbacks over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes, they have.
They have.
Yeah.
Most of them have not been very good.
That's right.
The Seahawks took Tariq Woolen.
Thanks, Sean. Did they?
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy they like. Long cornerbacks.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. But we got 2 cornerbacks, so. All right, let's go to Dexter in Santa Rosa, California. What's up, Dexter?
Hey guys, been a long time listener. I'm a little confused as to why they haven't, or their lack of interest at the linebacker position. Every year during the draft, I always look at it like, okay, based off of who they pick, this is how Belichick feels about the guys that are on his roster. So I don't feel this way, but I just wonder if he's looking at it like Raquan McMillan and Cameron McGrone, if they are the answers. And also
And Josh Uche and Ronnie
I've been
Perkins and
listening
Mac
to-
Wilson. Yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what he's saying. I think he's telling.
So
And Bentley?
I'm not telling you he's right. I'm telling you I think that's what the thought process.
Yeah.
Right. And then also, I've been listening to, like I said, for about 15 years. Absolutely love your guys' show. And, has anyone heard from Eldred? Is he okay? Because
he hasn't checked in.
4.28,
I wanted to call in. I said the first
Yeah.
thing after they
You all
took him, I'm like, where's Eldred? I got to get his
Well, it's the
take on
weekend.
this.
He's not in his truck, so, you know.
He's
Oh,
resting.
man, no, he needs to call in. I need to know what he thinks
Yeah.
because he's been calling just banging the table for
Yeah.
outside speed.
Right?
And
I
now
know.
we got it. So
I know. Now he
That's
checks
all I
out.
got.
What's going on, Elder? I guess we got to wait till Tuesday. Maybe he's gathering.
Yeah, maybe he's giving himself time to process everything.
Freddie,
See how he
Eric
feels.
Edholm, right along you, lockstep with Seattle. Woolen is such a Seattle-type cornerback.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's who Pete Carroll likes.
Yeah.
There's one thing Pete Carroll knows. It's
Sherman and
defensive
Browner.
backs.
Yep.
He knows his defensive backs. Let's go to Rashad in Baltimore. What's up, Rashad?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Hey.
First, what's the name? I got to say something about the first pick before I get about the other draft pick. Of course, I didn't like the pick just because the value. I mean, I really still don't like the pick, and I just feel like the Patriots board is obviously is different than everybody else. Like I made a joke in my group chat about Jack Jones. I said the Patriots' next upcoming pick probably going to be somebody that's like a 7th round projected person, and of course Jack Jones is like projected 6th or 7th round. But the draft is it's okay. I'm liking that they're at least trying to address speed. They're at least trying to add speed to the team.
Yeah.
But like the players that they getting, it's just questionable. It's just questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think look, all these guys are going to get a chance, and taken as a whole, I'm excited in camp to get a feel for it, especially Thornton. Just what's that speed look like? How does that translate here? But you bring up the front too, and it's I don't know. It doesn't look like a championship level defense. It looks like a defense that's a bunch of guys that we need to prove it, and we need to go into competition and hope that somebody emerges and makes plays. But you don't have a lot of high round draft pick guys that are going to make an impact. I want Judon and Barmore to be able to excel.
Yeah, and I feel like if we at least draft a linebacker or a pass rusher, somebody, it'll like at least that'll push like people on the roster maybe to do better. Like it just feel like we're bringing the same people in, so it's like,
yeah. No, I know, and it's Uche. I mean, I know there's an Uche hype train that was pulls out of the station last summer and never really went anywhere. I don't know.
Wait till camp, Mike.
Well, now it's real. I mean, and Perkins too. I mean, never really saw much out of him. So
at least Uche got on the field occasionally the last 2 years. All these other guys that we're talking about really have never played.
Yeah.
And Jennings, Perkins.
And
McGrone, obviously, I mean, I'll cut him some slack because he was hurt. But we've never seen any of those other guys really for any extended time on the field. Uche at least has had some opportunities.
Yeah.
That's why I would put him at the top of the list in terms of expectations. But you're right, Mike. The way that people talked about him last summer was like he had already done it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, I don't remember these plays you guys are talking about from his rookie year. And certainly, I didn't see those plays last year.
3-4 plays at tops, though. I mean, even if you like them and you're banging the drum.
I think he tackled Tua in that last game against Miami his rookie year, and everybody was like, "Did you see that?" Not realizing 2 years later that Tua hasn't really been a runner as a pro. I mean, he hasn't.
Yeah.
I think he's really concentrated on staying in the pocket. I don't see those same plays that other people seem to be talking about in the summer.
I know, and then we were. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I add just one more thing about the I guess the upcoming rookies maybe we could draft. I'm liking Zion McCullum. I'm thinking he probably will be gone before the 6th round.
Yeah, they might be done a corner too.
At least if we could add another wide receiver. I mean, Kyle Phillips is still out there. I think Khalil Shakur, he's still out there.
He's gone.
Shakir is no longer.
just went
to
He
Buffalo.
just
Sorry
went
for the
like
news.
he went about 4 or 5 picks ago.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Of course.
Yeah, I was bummed on that too.
I mean, Kyle Phillips, I like him as a good slot receiver, somebody who can take Jacoby's spot, because I don't really think Jacoby's going to be here next year.
I would agree.
I'm really thinking, I'm thinking a lot of these draft picks is really because they planning for next year.
Yeah, no, totally. Especially with like Pierre Strong, the running back pick.
Yep.
Paul talked about Thornton being kind of an Aguilar replacement, or even giving Aguilar maybe a little bit more freedom of to move him around a little bit more, putting Thornton on the outside just to
because I just wonder I mean, it's great to say, okay, well, you need 5 receivers. Yeah, you do.
But they can't all be out there at the same time.
And you're not going to get production from 5 different guys.
Yeah.
So it's easy to sit there and say, well, you have your deep threat with Thornton. Well, is he going to get on the field? Like, even if he works out, if Bourne, Aguilar, and Myers are all here, he's probably not going to play very much. In Parker.
Right.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to play very much.
Right.
Even if he works out, even if he shows promise,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's why it
But
feels
what he
like
could
next
be
year.
is like Bethel Johnson early in his career, the one-trick pony that all of a sudden, and I'll give Bethel Johnson credit for this. He was one of those guys. You threw a bomb to him every other game, and he caught it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he made a play with it,
And he returned a kick or two.
No, he was he was always a good returner.
Yeah. Thanks, Rashad. Appreciate the call. Let's go to
Jack Jones, by the way, would not comment on any of his off-field issues. He was asked about them.
Okay. Broke into a restaurant, but he's not biting.
I just have to say, I gave Eric a look, a couple of minutes ago as Mike was talking about his disdain for the lack of movement on the front seven and wondering about this. You openly dismissing some of the draft picks of the Patriots. I just wonder
who are these people?
Who are the two people that I'm on the show with today?
Yeah, no. Last night after that call, I realized I hate Bill Belichick, and
it is a role reversal because we also learned last night that I am a Bill Belichick bowl.
Yeah.
Right, we were all
No, listen,
up, it's down, cats and dogs living together.
We've been around. This is what, our 28th draft or something like that, Paul?
I think it's 23 for me with you.
23.
Feels like
23 and me.
You're intrigued with every guy because every guy has bona fides. They come out of college with all this, all that. They're the best in college. But, you see when they get here, it's a whole different thing. So I'm with Paul. I love the idea of bringing in all this speed. I really do. But I'm wondering, how are we going to stop Josh Allen?
Right. Well, make
I
an
still
argument.
wonder that.
How do
Right.
you make an argument right now
I
that the
still wonder
defense
that.
is better right now
Yeah.
than it was when the season ended?
No, I don't think you can make the argument, but
I
I
don't
think
think you can make that
you,
argument.
you at least have the hope that some of these guys that we haven't seen much of can do something.
Yeah, I went
Right
into,
now, anyway.
Yeah, I went
Right,
into the draft. I'm not going to be a phony. I went into the draft thinking defense, 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 defense.
Yeah.
Now they have addressed cornerback, so we've got a little.
Well, they've
But-
picked some
Well,
corners.
yeah, they've got
you
some
pick
corner.
a guy at the end of the third round and in the fourth
Right,
round. You
right.
really haven't.
Right.
To Mike's point, your defense isn't better.
No,
Yeah.
but I know. But considering where we were, at least we've got a couple more guys that we can look at that position.
Right. Well,
So maybe this is for defense. Maybe this is a 2-year build.
Yeah, I was going to say you're hoping that one of those two guys is Asante Samuel.
Right.
And in 2 years, you got a player around.
Right.
I mean, this year you're going to be desperate for one of those guys to emerge, and it's not like. I mean, I guess Uche and Perkins were day 2 picks. Was Perkins? I forget off the top of my head if it was third, fourth round, but
Yeah, he wasn't
Day
second.
day 2. So
yeah.
it's not like we had this first round pick. It's like Cameron Grone was a 4th round pick. Like he was fine.
Well,
but
I think he was a 5th round pick.
He was a 5th round pick because everyone knew he wasn't going to play that year.
sure.
Yeah,
and even if you
I-
want to
I
call
don't know about that.
Look,
Oh,
I mean,
that's what we were told.
but
Oh,
even,
I know what we were told.
Yeah.
He was a red shirt
Yes.
pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know where he would have gotten taken had he been healthy.
We were told he would have gone a little higher.
Well, even if you want to call him a 3rd round pick, it's just there's not Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower. I'm having flashbacks to 09, 10 when you turned it over and you were searching for front 7 guys who could make an impact. Now out of that, you got like a Ninkovich. You found somebody from all that rubble, but you just look. You got a lot of guys. And someone will emerge, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be a better defense, that these are going to be plus players. Like maybe they'll be NFL players and they'll be the best of what they have.
Yeah.
But you got to convince me that these guys have some magic. And, with playing time, Uche and Perkins, all of a sudden it's like, whoo, we got something. Now, I like that they're going to give them a chance, but I just right now I'm a little skeptical that they have a high ceiling.
Yeah, but those are the things we have to look forward to for the practices coming up in the spring and in the summer is seeing these guys more than we did last year, seeing them a little bit more in the preseason. And, obviously we're not going to know.
Well,
until
defense is harder to know with these practices because
Right.
they don't hit.
But still, just based on the numbers and the new bodies, like who's out there? Like, I mean, at least in the past, you
personnel
knew,
groupings.
all right, we know Hightower and it will
Exactly.
be out there as the guys, but who's going to be across from Judon? When they're just running their scout, their
Get your
defense
binoculars
walking.
out.
Oh, I got them ready
I mean,
already. I'm polishing them up.
Doesn't it have to be Ronnie Perkins?
I think so. But they'll have to
No.
play it out.
You're saying between Perkins and Uche? I mean, it's Perkins.
I look
Uche
at
and Jennings.
Uche as sort of a situational kind of Let's go
Yeah.
forward and be a pass rusher. I don't know. Maybe that's all Perkins is too. I thought Perkins had a chance to be more of a well-rounded, like 4-3 end.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
I don't know either.
mean,
we
let's
didn't
face
see
it,
him
we're all-
play. We
we're-
saw him
yeah,
for
we're
2
all throwing
seconds last
darts.
year.
This stinks. I can't even get in an argument with him.
God, dude's just
I set the over
You're
under.
supposed to love the
I
defense.
set the over under at 210. It's 235. I haven't even been sniffing an argument yet.
Well,
God.
I mean, I
God darn. John
All right.
Cox
Argue with
toast on.
yourself. We've done that before.
Let's go to Kevin in Buffalo. What's up, Kevin? Kevin.
Let's go, Buffalo.
Hey, Kevin. You there? Kevin. He's gone. We'll go to Eddie in Florida. Eddie.
Oh,
He's gone.
thanks, Hardy.
Eddie.
Wow.
I want to thank Hardy for coming in early for the Revs
Yeah.
game tonight. And
We'll
running
try Always in
Patriots show.
Hawaii. What's up, Always?
what's going on?
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, awesome coverage. I love
I agree.
the draft coverage. I've been listening since day one. I just had a quick question. I'm going to take it off the air. I want you guys to comment about our development. Like, what has there anything changed from the earlier 2000s, like and then the post 2010 and now? As far as we got the wide receiver we have, I've been hearing, he's very thin, he's super fast, but are we, how's our? Can you guys comment on the development and the coaching? Thank you.
Okay. I mean,
When he
it's-
says they, is he talking about the receiver position specifically?
no,
or the team?
I
Or
just think
their
the
philosophy
team,
kinda changed of what they're-
He said 2000, then 2010, and then now.
Yeah.
Over the 20 years,
Right.
has the development, how they build a team, has that philosophy changed?
Well, I think
and if it has, how?
I
Is he
think in the
talking about
beginning,
receivers.
I think he meant
he meant
overall.
the team. I think in
Yeah.
the beginning it was a defense-focused team
Run oriented.
with run-oriented, defense-focused team.
Power.
In the first decade of the dynasty, if you will. The second half, it was the pendulum swung to the offense, and it was more offense-based, higher point scoring totals. Brady obviously hitting his stride, getting into his prime. Now I think they're sort of somewhere in the middle because they don't really have a dominant offense. They had a little bit better offense last year than they did in 2020. The defense is, like we just talked about, who knows what that's going to look like, but the last evidence we saw was not very good. So I think they're still trying to figure out what kind of team they are right now, whether they're going to be offensive focused or more defensive focused.
And that sort of reminds me of what we were talking about. Like Fred said, he went into the draft thinking defense. And I just wonder if they're looking at it as no, we got to find a way to score more points. Because
Could be.
Because even if we do improve our defense, we're still limited offensively.
Yeah.
Even if we have a good defense, it's hard to win when that stat that we keep talking about. I keep talking about.
Yeah.
About the 25 points. You have to find a way to be able to consistently score more than 25 points every week. And maybe they're looking at it that way.
Yeah, and maybe they're looking at it that, look, we're closer to being where we want to be on offense than we are on defense.
So let's finish the job.
Finish the job on offense. That could be.
Could be.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of
or it could be these are just the guys that were available.
Yeah, well, you've spent draft picks on Uche and Perkins and Jennings, and at some point you gotta figure it out with them. As much as you'd love a perfect situation where you have a starting 3 linebackers and let's ease one in. I mean, it feels like we're gonna just kind of have to push some guys into the mix this
And
year.
I have an admission to make. I think this whole linebacker thing, I think I'm getting what I wanted. I think he's finally doing what I wanted him to do. We'll see
Play
if
the young guys.
Yeah, you got to fish or cut bait. Mike said it. They used all of those guys that we talked about. If there's 5 or 6 guys, 4 or 5 of them were draft picks in the first 3 rounds of the last 3 drafts. Mm-hmm. Except for McCullum, who was a 5th rounder. Uche, Perkins, Jennings, these guys were all draft picks in the first 3 rounds. They should be playing by now.
They should be.
And I think I'm going to get what I want. I think he's going to play the young guys, and then you might not be as good as you were last year. I agree with Mike. I don't think the defense right now, on paper, is as good as the one that struggled at the end of last year.
Yeah,
But
taking a half step
goal,
back.
yeah, the goal is by the end of the year,
Yeah.
you have these young guys. They're acclimated to the system. They're playing faster because they're a little bit more comfortable mentally.
Yeah.
And now you have some athletes that maybe force a punt against Buffalo.
Maybe.
You know,
I
I
like
just
what
think you
you're
were
saying.
beating your head into the wall.
Yeah, right.
You know, with Jamie Collins and Dante Hightower and Kyle Van Noy.
Totally.
You weren't getting any better with those guys, and it wasn't good enough with those guys. So, yes, I agree. These guys are probably going to make more mistakes than those guys. But you live through
hopefully
those
they're
mistakes, and
faster.
hopefully you're better for it down the
Right.
road.
And at the end of the year, hopefully maybe you say, hey, McGrone, he can play. Uche Perkins, not so much. You find a couple, you know what you have, and then you can next year through free agency with money and next year's draft, where I think they've acquired like about 10 picks already. So they'll be able to build around it and know what you have. I think maybe it's an element too, Paul, of just we don't know who's going to pop and who's not going to pop. We need to figure that out first and then build around those guys before we start piling guys in behind McGrone, behind Raycole McMillan. Who knows? Those guys might turn out players, and you're drafting somebody now, and it might be burning a pick.
All right. Lots of calls and emails coming in, so let's continue. Pat Nagawam, what's up, Pat? Pat.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Sorry, I'm
No
driving, so
cholesterol
yeah, I'm
still.
Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Is it me? Just a quick question: is it me or the last two drafts? Does it seem like they're taking guys with a little bit like higher athletic score? Like most of these guys that they took, like Cole Strange. I know that they usually like athletic offensive linemen, but like him, Thornton, Marcus Jones, who I love by the way, Strong, and even guys last year like McGrone.
I don't think
Ronnie
McGrone's
Perkins.
that
These are all guys that I think are a little bit more athletic than they're used to taking. What do you guys think?
I'll let you guys take it.
Well, I mean, from a speed perspective, that's true.
I think this year.
This year.
I don't think the guys last year fit the profile that we're talking. I don't think
No.
McGrone is that kind of an athlete.
But I think Barmore was a little bit of a surprise to me, just in terms of
He's just good.
yeah, he's just good. And then I hope they're like this.
Yeah,
too.
I think Ramondre Stevenson, I don't think you look at him as like an elite athlete. I think he's a really good running back.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
He's a really good,
versatility.
he's a really good football player.
Well, this year, it's certainly,
Yeah.
like Matt Gross said last night, if you want to increase speed, get fast guys, so.
and I do think that was a priority.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So definitely this.
All right, that's all I got, guys.
All right, thanks, Patty. Bob is in the hot tub. What's up, Bob?
Celebrity hot tub. Too hot in the hot
Hey
tub.
guys, how you doing?
Very
Good.
hot. Wet.
Yeah.
Well,
I wanted to
well.
call
Don't
back.
drop
I
your
didn't hear
phone.
You guys asked me the question about the dress code in the hot tub. So I do some of my best thinking naked in the hot tub. Just to
That's
clarify.
all right.
That's it. So one of the things, I was thinking about with the Belichick, draft power. This year, we're not really taking guys from, places where we normally do, like with the exception of the kid from ASU.
Yep.
Nobody from Michigan, thank God, or Alabama, or Rutgers.
Or Georgia.
I wonder if that's sort of an indication that he's, doesn't have as much say into, drafting his buddies.
I don't know about that. I mean, what's wrong with taking a guy from Georgia, or Alabama,
Yeah.
or
A little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah.
It does seem like they're maybe beating the
I
bushes
think
a little bit
they've
more.
criticized Bill in the past more for not taking those guys.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't have any
Right.
problem with Georgia and Alabama and even Oklahoma because I know Lincoln Riley is one of his boys too. It was the Rutgers thing that really
It was
bugged everybody.
Rutgers.
Right.
Yep.
Your friend coaches at a low-level Division I school. Sorry, Greg Bedard, but
Right.
and all of those guys that we took, we got McCourty.
Yep.
The rest of them, the rest of them
Logan Ryan was okay
were just
for a little
average
while.
players that you could have gotten from anywhere.
Oh, Super Bowl.
Like you didn't have to tap into your,
Yep.
inside connections to get Logan Ryan and Deron Harmon. Yeah.
All right. Well, it was a hypothesis. I'll jump in the tub and give it a think.
Good for you.
Yeah, be careful, don't slip.
But I like the fact that last year,
I like the fact he's in a hot tub.
I think the reason they were successful last year is that it wasn't overthought. Bill just said, you know what? We got Alabama guys. We got Oklahoma guys. I know these guys. I know the coaches. They're in line at spots that we need. Obviously, Mac Jones is a little different because he's a quarterback, but just find the player, find the talent. Christian Barmore, I like him. I'm going to take him. He's at a program that I know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Barmore.
But it doesn't really seem like
Still
that
have
this
that-
year.
No.
Still have that crush on
It's kind of
Barmore.
the opposite
That
this
hasn't
year,
gone
right?
away.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, thank God we can get this guy that nobody's going to probably
Getting
take
all
for a
these
little
schools
while.
with three words in them,
Right.
Yeah.
Chattanooga.
Yeah, this is definitely
How do you spell
different.
Yeah.
It's going to be complicated. Got to learn new words.
It's like almost this year they're showing how in depth their research was.
Right.
We
Yeah.
really turned over every rock this year.
Yeah. Beat
Yeah.
the bushes. Hit the bricks.
And you wonder, it's become almost cliche, but you wonder, now with the COVID kind of being lifted up a little bit more and being able to be in person at games more, you wonder if that allows them to reach a little deeper into schools and not have to just fall back on Alabama and
Yeah.
you wonder.
Well, I know Matt Groh last night gave a shout out to the Texas scout.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah, I forgot his name at the moment, but
he seems very cognizant of spreading the credit to a lot of the other guys. I mean, just in the limited times we've heard from him in the last couple of weeks,
Yep.
he always seems to
drops a
mention
lot of names.
the scouts or people who are there helping him. So, yeah, I mean, it does seem a little bit different. In other ways, it seems very similar that they've got their board, that's their way, and they're going to take the guys that they like, and they
When
don't
they
really
like.
care what Pro Football Focus has in their mock draft as their rankings or any of that stuff. So there's definitely a lot of reinforcement needs that have been met. I just am going to question what the ceiling is for all of this, because the players that they quote unquote reached on, which is all in perspective, that's a reason why other people didn't think that they were atop the board. So maybe the Patriots are right. Maybe they're going to get out there and they're going to jive in the Patriot system and they're going to rise up and the ceiling is high, but we got to see it on the field, and we've got to see guys on defense emerge on the field. Like, these things have to happen over the course of the summer before we get into the games. And right now I think it's a big question about what does the defense look? Who emerges? I mean, if you had to ask me who the starting defense looked like, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what who's starting at cornerback or who's starting at outside linebacker.
It's going to be a very, very interesting summer.
Yeah. And
joint practices will be, that'll give us some clues.
Now that's a great point, Fred. I think because that gives you a sense of how they stack up. Like, we can sit and watch the Patriots practice against the Patriots, and
right.
It looks like it does. But until you get
You
them
can watch
against
Josh
another
Uche
team,
come up with 5 sacks every day.
right.
When the offensive line's not blocking.
Right. Well, that's a whole other thing.
Usually
too,
when they play against another team,
you get a sense of how they kind of stack up, and even then,
Absolutely.
it's almost on a microscopic level, because you're like, well, I watch one-on-ones, I watch red zone drills, and
right, it's still not the real thing, but it's closer.
But it's closer, and I still think you're going to go into this season, not knowing for sure. And I mean, I like it. I mean, I think when you add Thornton and Parker, that makes sense. Like, all right, that you've heard kind of the people lighting. I guess you don't hear people lighting the torches, but the people who've been like banging the table about getting faster, having outside threats, having guys that can stretch the field and get separation. That buzzword. Parker, he's a contested catch guy, but he does it at an NFL level. He's not a college contested catch guy. So I think they have added some elements to their offense.
Yeah.
And
but who's calling the plays, Mike?
Oh, God, we haven't even gotten to that yet.
It's another interesting element, though, because I mean, there's still 4 picks to go, and if you're going to get a slot receiver, this is where you get it. I mean, a lot of those guys are late round picks. But I do find that interesting because everybody's like, they need a true slot receiver. And I get really mad at that because they have Jacoby Myers who caught 85 passes. And, because he's not, a little water bug out there,
right.
It looks a little different. What's the difference as long as he's catching passes on third down that are moving the chains?
Yep.
I think that no receiver for the Patriots last year got open as consistently as Jacoby Myers did. That's a security blanket.
Made it tough catches and big spots.
And I'm not telling you that he's Welker. I'm not telling you that he's Edelman or Troy Brown. He wasn't. But he gave you that element, and everybody is just, they need a true slot receiver. The style that you think that they need.
Yeah.
And then what did they do? They did what Mike just said. They went out and traded for Devontae Parker, and they went out and drafted a guy who's going to play on the outside and
the reason
ostensibly burn people down the field.
And the reason it doesn't look the same is they're not happening in big games because there were really no big games. And when they got to a big game, they couldn't do anything.
But again, and I'm not trying to pretend that he's at that level. He's not. He's a much different player, and I do think this is probably his last year. I think he'll be an unrestricted free agent. He'll have decent numbers that will
Yeah.
be attractive on the open market, and I think that they'll look at him as, well, they got the best out of him in the 3 years that he was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Give us our
they might
comp
not
pick.
have come in big games, Fred, but I think he did have some big play moments. When they needed a third down or they needed a lot of yardage, they'd go to him, and more often than not, he makes the play.
Yeah.
And he doesn't drop passes. He was very reliable. He didn't have very many drops at all.
Let's go to Jason in Georgia. Hey, Jason.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Man, this draft had me through the roof. The first-round pick had me yelling at me and my brother, just going back and forth yelling. So I'm just really trying my best to calm down and understand these picks that they've taken. And the best thing I can come up with is that if the first two picks work and maybe one of these other picks that we've done come in, then that's the best I can get for it.
Okay.
Because we had
I'll take 3
Mac
picks
Jones,
working.
Yeah.
like
We were pleased as
maybe the
punch
good
last
hit.
year for
Mac
3.
Jones,
Yeah.
it's a good hit with Barmore, and it was a good hit with Ramondre. And honestly, I think you can only get like 2 or 3 good hits out of the draft on any given year.
That's right.
Well, you're allowed to get as many as
Yeah,
you can,
but
but
it's-
I'll take 3.
Yeah.
I think that's a good draft.
I'll
Yeah.
take that. Sure.
And that was the bottom line when we came into this. It was like, what do they need? 3 starters. Give me
Yeah.
3 more starters. Not even specific to position. 3 starters.
Deuce, your Kyle Phillips dream is dead.
I know.
Mike
know.
Vrabel
Tennessee.
stolen
But
from
hey,
you.
if he's got to go somewhere,
Vrabes.
yeah, that's my B team.
Collins in San Francisco. Hey, Colin.
This just in, Mike Lutz for Tennessee over the Patriots.
What's up, Colin?
Colin.
Colin.
Hello?
Yes.
Hey,
All right.
what up?
I'm calling in talking about the linebackers. I'm not sure what we're doing. Boom Tower's looking like Bust Tower. He looks like he's
Dun
45
Tower.
years
Dun
old.
Tower.
Dun Tower.
He looks like he's 45 years old, running around. Then Nakobe Dean falls into like the late third, or maybe it's the early third. But either way, he falls into the third when he's like the best linebacker in the country, wins that award. I don't know what we're doing, not picking him there.
Well, the rest of the league didn't pick him either.
Right.
Yeah, he's got. I mean,
Well,
there are
no,
issues
but,
with
what
him.
I'm wondering
I think
is
his
what
slip
do you
had to
guys
be
think
related
the
to
problem
that.
was there?
I think his health.
Injuries.
Yeah, injuries, and then I think they're even without the injuries, there's question about his size. I mean, I like the player. I would have been happy.
I
happy
love
to have
the
him.
player. Love
Really
the player.
smart, but I think there was always some kind of like.
I think people said, there's one thing to be undersized, but when you're undersized and you got a bunch of injuries,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
the double whammy.
Yeah. You need a team that can kind of just
Yeah, I mean,
take a
'cause
flyer on him.
There've been undersized linebackers in
Right.
the NFL before who were even going back to Zach Thomas,
Who's durable.
right?
Right.
But he was out there all the time.
Right.
Even Landon Roberts,
Yep.
who
Sam Mills.
Yeah,
Sam Mills,
cool.
like these guys were shorter, stockier, fire hydrant type linebackers,
Right.
but they were out there.
Yeah.
They didn't have the injury concerns all the time.
Right. I mean, that's the first thing you look at is, he's small. Can he hold up?
Yeah.
This guy's got a lot of injuries. So
My guess is
you
if
know.
he wasn't so injured or didn't have the litany of
he-
injuries, he'd probably have been a first-round pick.
I think so too. Yeah.
I just think the newer generation of linebackers, maybe not necessarily undersized, but are just so much faster than the ones we have on our roster. Like if you look at a guy like Devin White or Deion Jones, like people coming out of the draft the last 5 years are just so much faster. Like Hightower looked glacially slow.
Hey, did my guy
that
Malcolm
Bills game.
Rodriguez go yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
He's still there.
Emrod?
No, you're right. But I mean, I
Emrod.
think that there's some nuance to the conversation in just how the Patriots manage their roles. And I think that they, instead of drafting those linebackers, I think that they've focused more on safeties and strong safeties and those guys who can play in the box and can run maybe even better than some of those linebackers. But I think, as we've seen, you go with safeties, you might get run on, and they've had some problems against the run. You look at the off-the-ball linebackers. I've listed them off a bunch of times during the last 3 days, but there's a kind of versatility, variety of guys: McMillan, Mack Wilson, McGrone, Bentley, Longy, Tavai, and Hall. And I know that they like some of those guys, probably a little bit more than we're even than we talk about, but. That's why I struggle with the linebacker position coming into the draft, because you've got a bunch of guys there, not a lot proven, but you've got guys. And do you need to log jam it? Do you really not believe in any of these guys that you have on your roster? Then why are they here? So I hear your general point. I
Thanks,
just
Colin.
skew more towards the edge, and who's going to win up front when Tennessee's trying to run an off tackle, and is Ronnie Perkins getting up there and setting the edge? What you gonna do when Derrick Henry running up? Like that's the concern. Is it's even at their best, I'm not 100% sure that those guys were ever the stout edge player.
Jeff's in Texas calling back. What's up, Jeff?
Hey guys, enjoy the show.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hey. So, Deuce, about the the Belichick haters, man. I heard that yesterday, and that was unbelievable. But I just want to say,
Paul.
as far as looking at Belichick and the new era with Mac, I mean, I think the end of how this year plays out is going to be really crucial. How people look at Belichick, whether you like him or not.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see. I mean, Mac. We're going to see Mac hopefully take a jump this year, and Aguilar and some other players. I mean, the defense is still. I know it's a big question, but I think when we get through all the workouts and we finally get into the games, I think Belichick will put the best he can. But I do believe that next year will be. I think it'll be a really big jump next year when we have all that free agency money, and look for probably Belichick to make a big splash then.
Yep.
Really help the team out. But I know it's too early. We can't pencil in wins and losses. But what would you guys think would have to be you'd look at just if everything stayed pretty much the same? Maybe what are the expectations?
Well, that's a good question. What are the expectations? Because they didn't finish the season well last year, and on paper, the other teams in the AFC that are going to be competing for playoff spots seem to have gotten better.
Yeah.
Especially on the offensive side of the ball.
So that has made a lot of people nervous.
Yeah. My expectation is the schedule is going to be tougher because more teams look like they've improved.
100%.
And you didn't necessarily keep up with that. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of practices to go between now and September.
Directly to what we're talking about on defense. I mean, how do you match up
the last 20 years? The Patriots would play a decent team or a good team, and they'd beat them soundly. Patriots gave the blueprint for that team. Did the blueprint of the Patriots come out last year at the end of the year?
That's kind of been a narrative.
That's what I'm worried about.
That was kind of a narrative at the end of the year.
I don't think so. But I almost mean it in a worse way because I just think that they didn't play well. I didn't even think they played up to the talent that they did have. It just didn't feel like things were right.
We'll find
last
out.
Year.
I mean, I get what you're saying. We'll find out. Was it because of the other teams were better, or was it because the Patriots didn't play as well down the stretch?
Right.
And we'll find out.
Yep.
I think the schedule got significantly harder down the stretch.
Yeah, but I just don't think that they had it. Sometimes teams come together and they kind of are greater than the sum of their parts. And I felt like last year, it wasn't even just that they didn't play that well. They just didn't have any
it's
chemistry.
Hard to believe that
I thought they overachieved a little bit last year.
It's hard to believe a Bill Belichick coach team could go 2 games without giving up forcing a punt. But it happened.
You had no answers.
But it happened.
Yeah, and that's I just don't think.
Thanks,
I mean,
Jeff.
the answer to Jeff's question, everybody all gave their caveats, and I would lead with my disclaimer. There's a million things that are going to happen between now and September. Mm-hmm. But right now, I see them as like a 7-win team.
Yeah. Around 500.
Maybe 8 if Bill really, really coaches it up. Now, if all of those teams on paper that look to have improved, I'm going to use a couple because I think we can all assume that Buffalo will be good, Kansas City will be good.
Yeah.
But let's say 2 teams in particular that I think were middling teams last year that look to have significantly improved with the acquisitions of quarterbacks, Denver and Cleveland. If they both work, the Patriots might be hard-pressed to win 7 or 8 games.
Yeah.
Those kinds of teams, if they've made a significant jump and their quarterbacks are really good, if Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson with Denver and Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And you couldn't beat Cleveland. You couldn't beat Deshaun Watson when he was quarterbacking a 4-win team.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to the angriest I've seen Mike in the 3 years that we've worked together.
That Houston game.
2020, when they absolutely got steamrolled by one man. They got steamrolled by one guy, a 4-win team, and he beat them by himself. Cleveland's not that bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if he's that guy, now he's been away a whole year. I'm not ready to just pencil Cleveland in as a contender. He's been away for a whole year. Who even knows if he's going to get suspended?
And Miami has a new head coach. You don't know. There are a lot of just because these.
That's
on,
why
on
I say
paper,
if
we
they
don't
all
know.
work out,
Right.
if Denver's better, if Cleveland's better, if Miami's
better, if the Jets are better,
if all of those teams, San Diego, L.A. Chargers, if all of those teams have worked out, then the Patriots could be
All right,
in
let's
trouble.
take a break. We have to go to audio. The police have pulled up. They're breaking up the party. But we'll be here for another hour, audio only, Patriots.com, the Patriots app, right after this.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Olympia Sports, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including 6 String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar, watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
The ruling on the field stands.
We deliver jerseys, funny foam fingers, and everything you need for the game. But what you really get is so much more.
FedEx Delivery.
Game day spirit. What we deliver by delivering.
Some people